Well, welcome to another installment of the Testimony Series, a series we've been doing recording God's stories from people that we have come across and been connected to at the Well Worship Center. We are excited today to have two Jodies with us. We have Coach Jody Adams-Birch and Coach Karsak, Jody Karsak, here to tell their story. Guys, it's good to have you here with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Well, where are we going to start? How did you two get to know each other? And let's just get right into it. Where did you guys' paths cross?
Well, I want to kind of take it back a little bit farther. So for me, one of my special sanctuaries with the Lord is when I go on a run. And so I remember running down Briarwood and just asking God how I can help impact Derby. So I'd listen to some sermon, just how can you be a light for this town? And at the time, I was a stay-at-home mom and doing that wonderful thing. Loved that job and taking care of the family and all that good stuff. And my kids were older, and so in that prayer, I was thinking maybe I'll take some cookies to my neighbor, which is a great thing, get to know my neighbors a little bit better. And long story short, God says, here, I want you to be the head coach at Derby High School. Okay. And so fast forward to a couple years later, I get the job. And at that time, I know I need some help. I've never done this before. And especially with the heart of it being missional and trying to get to the hearts behind the jersey. I prayed for somebody to come along in my life. So in December of 2016, Jody had come to recruit a couple of our kids. We had a couple of really high-profile kids, and after that game, I remember standing in the foyer, and she had a number. Was it written on your wrist?
On my hand.
On your hand. And I had asked her, what that was about. And just from there, we stood out in the foyer and talked for about an hour just about some things that were on her heart. And from that, I really felt compelled to pray for her. And then you kind of talk.
Right. And I was in a very different season than, a year before us meeting out front, after watching two of Jody's players compete that night. I think, God really began to pursue me, really, really hard. And it was over the period of time of being in Wichita. It was like, hey, I need your heart 100% here. But when things really, really, I believe, became so vivid for me to see, okay, things are transitioning. It was 1 year, and it started in 2015. Some unbelievable, dreams were coming true, right? From your just finished as a season, it was your 6th championship at Wichita State. You're blessed with an unbelievable staff, to being a sought-out coach across the country. All these wonderful blessings you believe in life of just pursuing and doing what you think you're doing and serving people. And from that to being asked by the man I love the most on earth, Roy asked me to marry him, into this, okay, next few things of really, really great to really, really tough, of losing my college coach, Pat Summit, to Alzheimer's, to my dad being diagnosed with Alzheimer's, to we're putting our dog down, to going through a situation with Wichita State, which was very disturbing, to me and to my heart. So there were some absolute wonderful times, and then there were some really tough times.
And your friend Kim.
Yes, and I lost my very best friend here in Wichita, Kim Sanders. So at that time, I knew, I felt it in my heart. The first thing that came, because it was something great of getting married, we set a date in 2016 that we would get married, that, I knew I needed to make some changes. I knew it. What I had been doing for all of my life, and being single and helping other people's kids continue to what they have developed at home, grow through life and get prepared for life, to, okay, now you have 2 bonus children and a husband that is great at what he does. One of the best that I've ever seen. So I began to pray, and with a friend of mine, my best friend, Kim Sanders, of being a God-fearing wife, and really just how to serve a blended family, and Roy in what he needed. So I just knew at that time there was going to be some transition. And when I lost her, that's when, and through the losses and through that very, very tough period, I mean, again, all this was in 1 year.
Wow.
I began to pray that someone would come into my life and help walk this journey with me. And I had no clue what that would look like. Who would that be? Looking back, I think certain people were put in, quick, maybe for months,
Sure.
to present certain things, or hey, here's a book, or hey, take a look at this. And but what I knew when I met Jody, and the more time that we spent together, this was not a coincidence.
Yes.
There were just so many amazing things that just began to shine bright through her and her words with me. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, hey, do this, do that. It was just reminders, hey, this is where you have found all your life promises and the truths. It's right here in the Bible. And so just, begin our walk that way, but through a broken, person, heart was seared to, again, some of the most wonderful things happening. Mm-hmm. And to now I'm blessed with an unbelievable treasure in my life in her.
Amen.
I think it's also important to kind of talk about the distractions that were going on in my own heart as, right before she came along. And what I describe as distractions is how Satan likes to get us. And there's a lot of different ways that he will attack us. And I know for me personally, I had a really thin skin when I first started to coach. And anytime you're in a leadership position, you're going to be attacked and by man. And I did realize that in my own heart, I had a lot of pride. And what I mean by that, I wasn't leaning on him and his words and his truth, but I was really taking in what, different people were saying if I was doing handling things correctly. And, so I was kind of going through some of that. You want to come across as you have it all together. I mean, you just fight that feeling a lot. And especially, I was kind of an old rookie. So what I mean by that, when I first started coaching, I'm like in my 30s, right? So in almost 40, I wasn't straight out. I did coach a little bit right out of college, but not for long, because I wanted to stay home and do the family thing. But I was really struggling with some of that, just really fighting against wanting to please man. But that wasn't the why of why God gave me this assignment, because if we go back to when I was running, right? So It was, how are you going to help reach Derby for me? And it became, and I think Satan, within his lies and me believing them on some level, was that this was about me and how I was going to make this program great. So I was kind of dealing with some of that a little bit as Jody before she came along.
And no doubt, for me, you've done what you've done for so long, and as much as I want to say, I think when people look at us coaches, well, okay, they only see us as coaches. And it truly bothered me that, because when you play for someone like Pat Summitt, you come from a family of Hall of Famers, that, okay, you're just wired about winning. Well, I am wired about winning, but I'm more wired about winning hearts.
Amen.
And I'm more wired about serving. And so there was a battle there. There was a struggle, even from my first head coaching job. When I had left Southern Illinois to Murray State, we won our first year. And the person before me had done an unbelievable job. It was basically, Jody, just don't mess up your first gig here as being a head coach, right? So, but you're always, you got that battle with man. I mean, Jody just mentioned it. And you're always hearing, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And I'm thinking, and I could just feel the tug. I was so happy for the kids, the athletes, the university, the city of Wichita, to have the excitement, the winning. But there was this internal, too, of I don't want to be known for just winning.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be known for helping.
Yeah.
Helping people, and in some way, through all of this, in fighting, when the separation became true in 2017, 2017, when I separated from Wichita State, I felt free immediately. And, but there were also the struggles of that freedom that I feel that was trying to bring me back into the man, what you should be doing. Hey, go get this job. Go do this. Oh, you'll be great at this. I mean, I've heard from selling makeup to selling insurance to selling cars or whatever. And it's, you know what? I'm really good at selling a lot of things, but I want to be great at selling God, right? And Jesus and what He's done in my life, no doubt. But, I developed over a period of time of just anxiety and depression. So it was just getting to a point that obviously what we put our eyes on, what we hear, we develop a pattern that could be really unhealthy. Mm-hmm. And, athletes, we know our bodies, we know our minds, and God just continued to present, you need to change this. And I just began to change everything from how I get up in the mornings to the music I listen to my prayers, my not just talks with God. I needed to sit and listen. I needed one to be coached up, and I needed a friend to coach me up. So through just that battle of time of fighting what man was telling me, hey, where are you going to coach next? Because that's all they ever heard. Yeah. To, I'm really, guys, great with being a wife.
Yes.
And a bonus mom and supporting, my husband. Mm-hmm. And, but there was a fight there. There was a fight, through just all of that transition, but God continued to sit me down. Pull up a chair.
It's really interesting how both you guys were at a stage in life where you needed a coach. And the Lord brought you guys together as coaches. 2 different seasons of life. You're at a season where you don't really know exactly what the next several years hold, but you've stepped away from significant years of coaching, and at a Division I level, and you step away from that, and you're kind of in this transition. Jody, you're the varsity basketball coach for Derby Panthers here in Derby, Kansas, and it's new to you, but both of you, it's interesting kind of going 2 different directions as far as coaching is concerned, and yet dealing with what's expected by people, what's expected of me, really trying to find yourself in the midst of all of that. And it was like God brought the 2 of you together to help each other through that. So you guys get together, kind of take us from 2017, 2018 to the way that your friendship has developed since then.
Well, and I love how God, you can look, it's almost sometimes hindsight, but you can look back and go, this, he puts things in your life to confirm that it's not a coincidence.
Yes.
And I remember something very specific. A mutual friend of ours had called me up and said, and this was after we had already talked some, and said, can you continue to pray for Jody? She would not give me details, which was fine. And absolutely. Well, in my coaching and my mindset, I'm going to fix it. I can call her up and encourage her right now. I've got her phone number. I'm just going to call her. And God said, no, don't call her, because you're going to be really great friends someday. Like, I heard him say that, and I'm just like, okay. And I just kind of left it. So that was in February of 2017 was kind of when that happened. And then April, FCA banquet rolls around. I'm the FCA huddle leader at Derby High. Our group always goes and helps serve and those kinds of things. And it was Hometown Heroes, and Coach Jody got to be one of the Hometown Hero speakers. Well, on April 20th, just right before that happened, one of my players, Tori, her dad had passed away. And she knew Tori. That was one of the players she was recruiting when she was at Wichita State. And just, very concerned for her. How's she doing? And those kinds of things. And through our conversation, she just said, hey, can I train her? I would love to help her, spend some time with her. And I said, absolutely. She would love that. And she needed that. And she said, but I don't have a gym. And I said, well, I do. So I would unlock Derby's gym and sit up there and watch her train. And then we would end up just kind of talking for an hour, just end up being about God a lot of the times and just about life. And, that was kind of where it all really started, was when you started training Tori.
Yeah, and I think, obviously just knowing Jody a little bit, this is really when our relationship became relevant and just so powerful, was through these talks and training and Tori. And it was, as a time of servanthood, I knew I was in that time. I needed to serve. I needed to move. Jody, do what you're called to do. It is to serve people. And Tori had just been on my heart and on Roy's heart. We knew the family, and this is one way that you can do, and just, cheer her on in however it is. And she loves basketball, and so if it just spending time with her a little bit, just to let her know that she's not alone. And needless to say, in helping Tori, I was also being blessed in helping Tori, but to also have someone that would end up being, my best friend, to let me know, I wasn't alone. So as the conversations, just took place, and Jody's encouragement, I knew that I was in the right place. I was doing the right things as far as serving, and because it was what filled my heart, and has always been what filled my heart, was serving and helping. I just did it through coaching basketball.
So from there, really, that summer, I have a hard time keeping coaches on my staff. But it's a good thing, because they go off and do other great things. Sure. And so I was just searching for coaches, and that summer it was just me. And she realized that I was doing all these camps and all this stuff by myself, and she just said, hey, can I help? And initially, of course, me going, I don't need help. I said no. And plus it was, I'm just going to be honest, here she is, a Division I coach with all of the success. Like, why would she want to come help at Derby? And I still tease her about that. But she just really did. She genuinely, her humility just blew me away. And I want to help you. Let me help you. And she did. She came and ran our team camp for us. And then we had practice 3 times a week, and she would train several of the girls. And, she really, truly is a light. You can just feel it sitting here with her, and she loves people. And I was so excited to have that around my players. Yeah. And, and they did. They just ate up everything she said, and she is such an encourager. And it was a great summer. but still at this time, I had never thought one time about asking her to be on the staff. I was just thinking she was helping for the summer. Do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I was just helping. I was having the greatest time of my life, and I was happy that she finally said, okay, come and help. I was like, okay, she's kind of stubborn about asking for some help here. And I kept volunteering, pick me. And so finally she did pick me to come and help. I was like, okay, good. But I did. I had so much fun, just with the kids in the middle school. And again, I was continuing to be blessed, not just by helping and serving, but also watching Jody work. And with how she just deals with kids and adults, and she just encourages them. Her words are so, you can just tell that just God works through her words and how she delivers and how she reaches you. And it's pretty deep if you're listening. And so, again, it was fun. I was having a great time. I couldn't wait for the next day to come, and when camp was over, it was like, oh no, can we run another camp? Let's do another camp. So, but it was a blast. It was a blast, and I just continued just to say thank you. Jesus, I am blessed, and be grateful for I am still doing what I love to do, which is serve people.
Yeah. So after. It was July, and the AD's kind of saying, "Are we gonna find somebody?" And I was hitting my knees a lot. With the caliber of players that we had on our team, I had several people wanting to come and be a part of our staff, but I wanted their hearts to line up with my heart. That's very important to me, and. I think it was, I was in California. She was in Florida at Walt Disney World with her family. She calls me up. She's like, hey, I need you to pray for something. What was the job? It was...
I'm going to China to help with their national team and be a training. So I'd be a part of their national team and help in some way.
Yeah, it was a huge opportunity. Is this a direction that God is taking her? And so we kind of prayed through that, and she kind of thought it wasn't the direction. And so again, July comes, and the Lord is saying, you need to ask Jody to be your assistant. Like, no. Like, she was like, we had a blast. We have a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
And we had a blast that summer, but like, this is really something like the humility of that but God said do it, and I called that friend that had previously asked me to pray for her, and I said, what do you think? And she said, do it. She's going to say yes. And I was like, okay. So I called her up, and she was just like, I'm so humbled that you asked me, and I'm just, I don't know what to say because of her response, just her humility. She just really, of course, she talked it over with Roy and, made sure it was good for your family. Sure. But, so, yeah, she became part of Derby's staff.
But at that time, Jody did. She heard conversations that I was having, and also where was saying, well, what about being a WNBA coach, or what about, applying for this job and that job, and God just kept freezing it, and I just didn't feel any pull at all to do that, and I remember, I know, and because usually it just moves you forward, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just remember talking it over with Roy, and he said, I support you, do what your heart desires. And at that time, we were in such transition from selling a home to coming back from Orlando, saying no to an opportunity, to Roy thinking, okay, I'm going to move in a different direction. of having my own gym. So again, still juggling. What are you going to do, Jody?
Mm-hmm.
To family is doing this, and me still trying to stay centered in sitting and listening, not going and doing and fixing and making my path.
Yeah.
And that's for a coach. I mean, we're fixers. We make paths for other people. And when you've been doing something for so long, to sit and listen, that was, again, I had someone to lean on and to coach me up on, again, just keep doing what you're doing, reading, or she would, text me, hey, I read this today. This reminds me of you. Think on this today or pray on this today. Don't forget, what you're here to do. So, kind of just protected me, continue to protect my heart through prayer and pointing me into just the direction of, again, promises and truths. So.
Okay, so Coach Jody, you have been offered this position with the China national team. You no doubt got a handful of other opportunities if you wanted to take them. And then your friend here calls and asks if you want to help be the assistant coach at a high school in Derby, Kansas. What was it, how and when did God just lead you to say, this is what I'm going to do? And how did you know? When did you know? How did you know that's what the Lord wanted you to say yes to?
I think, just again through the struggles of man pushing me to this, because they've only seen me do this all my life, to understanding really what God wants you to do. Now you're married. It is to be there for your husband, to support him, his dreams, and also 2 children. That was, I felt that. And then, the icing on the cake was, okay, I still get to coach. I get to be a part of a great basketball program with an unbelievable leader in Jody, and just continuing to watch her, how she develops culture. She has talented players, and to pull them together. So being a part of that, I was excited, but here comes the what ifs. I didn't want to go there and become a distraction. I didn't want to come in and, okay, all of a sudden then, why is a Division I coach here coaching, at a high school? So these are the lies that begin to play in my head. I didn't want to go there. And like I said, she had built this program. I just wanted, however it was, and she saw fit that I could encourage kids, help her in any way, be someone that she can lean on and trust, that I would just be that person. So my concerns begin to be, I don't want to hinder anything that you're doing. And really, have you thought through this and prayed on this long enough? So, but for me, after praying about it and just really saying, yeah, it was easy. It was an easy yes.
And on my end, she brought all those, I don't want to be a distraction. I think I told you every time, don't worry about it. Like, I really felt like if this is God's plan, and which it was, he was going to protect us, and he did. The community has embraced you. They love her. I mean, the kids, we had so many fun times and laughed so much. So those memories of the ones that were a part of that every year, we talk about, but there was never a distraction. And always there's parent complaints, and she says, well, I'm the only one this year that didn't get a complaint, which is true.
That's awesome. And the only one that didn't get a technical.
I did, yes.
Yeah. Her and the JV coach, Jesse, a former player of mine. So
yeah, you were the good one.
No, that's right. That was nice. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. But that year was it seems like it's always coupled with the best of times, the worst of times. And for me, I had taken on a full-time job that year. Mr. Hamlin had asked, I have this position open. Would you be interested? I hadn't taught full-time since before children, so 15 years. And I said, I'll give it a year. So to take that on, be a new teacher, lesson planning, grading papers, all of that on top of coaching, and the amount of work that goes into, that's another reason why she was a godsend. I didn't have to worry about anything on the basketball side.
Right.
Yes. Nothing. Because I had her to lean on. Mm-hmm. And I tell her all the time, not only did I grow a ton in my faith, but she took me to coaching school herself in terms of she's been doing it 30 years. I had been doing it 6 or 7. And her wisdom and everything, I grew as a coach 10 years within that year. So,
God's timing on it all.
It was. It was, she talks a lot about what I brought to her life, but she brought so much to mine too. And it was meant to be. We both needed what God gave to us through each other that year. And, and it was hard. She had her torn rotator cuff. Mm-hmm. What else do you have?
Everything. It was just the wear and the tear of the sleepless nights, and still you're in battle. Mm-hmm. And this is where I just didn't want to give in, and I wasn't, so I just knew to stay in prayer, and God would lead us through this. It was just, again, it was there, almost there. We're going to get through this, but it's that last piece, and God had just placed so many things in my life just to continue to guide me and lead me. And obviously, Jody is one of them. But there from the beginning of me saying yes to coming off a rotator cuff, to getting pneumonia, to tearing my Achilles. So, immune system was shot. Just the worry of the anxiety, the depression, that part of, getting through that to, hey, I'm still sitting here. And I just had to continue to tell myself, I'm still sitting and listening. I'm being coached up by 2 wonderful, unbelievable guidance of God and Jody being guided in my life to help me. So as much as she grew in some ways, I grew in becoming a God-fearing wife. And so...
Wow. Well, tell us this. So I'm just curious, both of you have a long history of working with students, being sincere Christians, working in a public sector, which has, rules in place that kind of dictate how you can and can't be vocal about your faith. What do you want people to know about your story, that maybe they're out running the street thinking, I want to do more with my life? What would you say to somebody that's wanting to just use their life in a way that when it's all said and done, is ultimately going to impact people for God? And what would you say, secondly, and follow up to that, specifically to educators, Christians that are in the public sector, teaching, coaching, whatever it might be? What would you say to encourage them to live out their faith the best they can? Who wants to start?
You want me to start? Well, I think when you look at the whole grand picture, and been coaching basketball for a really long time, and this is where I'm so grateful for Jody, is God has gifted us all with some amazing gifts. And you want to surround yourself, and blessed I am to have someone through a season continue to say, Jody, you're great at this, or this is a gift. Wow, this is awesome. So she encouraged me in a time of disbelief in my own gifts. These are your gifts. Look what you're doing. And continued to shine the light on really where I thought I was a light, but then that light got dim from me.
Hmm.
So to be able to put it all together, faith in coaching basketball and really just beginning to see a big picture of when you are a leader, like she is a leader, has an unbelievable culture of just watching her work, her faith through the basketball, and us just using basketball as a vehicle. I mean, the winning comes when you got talent, you get through a season without injury, you have a great staff. I mean, there's so many components to winning, and at the end of the day, it is truly getting to the kid's heart that is behind the jersey. So I had a great example, and as much as I helped her, I know she helped me tenfold, and just seeing all of that put together, because that was something that I wanted to do better. And in that season where I really began to doubt myself or didn't believe in myself, in what I was doing or what I was supposed to be doing, my purpose in life, it just really came together because of who God placed in my life, who was my cheerleader, my Barnabas, and the administrator part of it. It's just, I hope you see our hearts, the intent.
Yeah.
Winning is winning on the court. It's pretty black and white. We're going to win because of resources, the ability to recruit, the trust in us to bring in, when things are not going well, the trust to try to put it back together the best that we can. At the end of the day, I don't think anyone would say here that we're perfect at coaching, but our hearts, are about that kid and doing the right thing. So just encourage administrators to look at the hearts that you're hiring and build trust there.
Amen. It's a great answer.
I'm going to use a story to kind of give an example. I think it just goes to loving the kids. There's a young lady who came to know Christ, who was very sciencey. She's very smart. Was trying to prove Jesus and God and the whole Bible wrong all the time to me. And I had her in class, and she would always ask me, she's like, "You're just different." And I was like, "Oh yeah, why do you think I'm different?" "I don't know. I can't figure it out." And I was like, "Well, maybe you'll figure it out." So I'm having this conversation with her the whole entire year, and now she knows the Lord, and, she comes to your church, and, it's just love the kids. Love them. I think we're just called to love. The way that, the closer man, God is there's just, it's a bottomless pit in terms of knowing Him. I mean, and it just goes on and on and on. You can never just know all of Him. And the closer I grow to Him, the more I want to love people.
Mm.
And
isn't that the truth?
And they see it. People will see it.
Amen.
If God will open their eyes, and I was just talking to her, and anyways, I think for educators, for people who know Christ and want to make a difference, love your kids. Mm-hmm. They will know, and you will have a lot of kids who don't get it. But if it's just that one, and I tell this young lady all the time, if I went through that whole year, because she I had some struggles, and it was a hard year for me. She's also a manager on our basketball team, but I told her it was worth it just for you.
Yeah.
And that just brings her to tears. And I say, that's the truth,
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say just love the kids and love the staff and love everybody. Mm-hmm. And you'll be a light that way. The second part of your question is ask that question. I think God just wants a willing heart, and on my run, I'm just saying, God, here I am, use me. I loved the sport of basketball, brought a lot of life to me. That's a whole other story, but He used that as a vehicle to draw closer to Him for me. And, for right now, that's my assignment, and we all have assignments, and, just have a willing heart.
When you guys sent in your story to me and I was looking through it, you really, on the back end of it, you finish it up with like these, I think you called them lessons that you learned And if I remember the title above it said Gospel Friendship. And I would really like us to finish out this segment with you guys sharing with our viewers the lessons that you've learned through this journey about friendship.
And it's the uncommon friendship that we say, right?
We definitely, that's the brand of our basketball program is uncommon, and really it's, God has called us to be set apart as His children, and that's where that uncommon comes from. And our friendship has been uncommon, and there's 3 points here that we kind of came up with, and the first one is we keep pointing each other to the cross. We want to, in my humanness, I know I need reminders. I would be that Israelite after crossing through that Red Sea going, where are you, God?
Yes.
I would be. And I need reminders, and I have a great friend, and that can point me to that. Isaiah 26:3 says, "You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you." And to have a friend to keep you pointed in that way. And another thing that both of us mentioned in our story, it's easy to get caught up in the worldly things, and that can be a lot of different things, but especially trying to please man. So Philippians 4:19 says, "And my God will supply every need of yours according to the riches and glory in Christ Jesus." And then giving each other that biblical perspective. I shared early on that my skin was very thin, and it became thick because of Christ, because He gave me a new lens in which to look at those circumstances that I was taking personal, that really had zero to do with me.
I think that's very huge, and that first statement, says a lot, I know, and could say a lot to a lot of us out there that are struggling, with the thin skin that we say, and we're looking at thin skin of, again, you can take it manly thin skin, or you can say, okay, I want thick skin, and how to build that thick skin. Well, how we were doing that is Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
And because when we don't, that's when we can easily get torn down and very disappointed in life. So, but the next one was a poem here, "Friendship Halves Our Sorrows," by J.C. Raleigh. "This world is full of sorrow because it is full of sin. It is a dark place. It is a lonely place. It is a disappointing place. The brightest sunbeam in it is a friend. Friendship halves our sorrows and doubles our joys. Many of us carry around great pain and sorrow. True companions cut those sorrows in half, often with just their mere presence and the rightly placed words." And this is when I had lost my best friend, Kim Sanders, and I was gifted this one. And Jody, Kim and I used to talk about being the rainbow in each other's storm. And it's just a promise. It's one of God's promises, and it kind of goes back to this poem. I mean, Jody has been a true rainbow in a season of life, for me. And as much as we do hold each other accountable, we don't want to live in flesh. We're not here to please man. We're here to please God, and to use our circumstances, our seasons, our stories, however He wants to gain from him. I mean, the glory is to go to Him, and but to be able to have a rainbow and a friend in a season of storm, it is a gift, and we can all have that gift. We really can, and we pray specifically for that and fervently for that. I know I have not been displeased in any of the things that have been delivered, I know, in my life through specific prayer.
Absolutely. The last thing that we learned is that true friends, genuine, this gospel friendship that's uncommon, is hard to find. All of us sitting here have probably been wounded more than once by people in our lives that we really poured our heart out into, and but still, yet it's worth it. And we are just a bunch of messes, that God just comes down and he makes these messes right and for his glory. Amen. And, so just the willingness to do the messy. But to me, we talk about that truly, honestly, walking through that year, although it was hard in a lot of ways, it was also easy because of who you're going to, that
Right.
there's ease in that. And the fruit of it is just, you can't even put words to it.
And it goes back to the lenses, how she was looking at me and how I was looking at myself were two different things. Because I'm like, I am a hot mess. This is just broke. It's just bad. And but she was able to draw me back to again the gifts that I've been blessed with. You are this. You are that. You do this. God knows your heart. He knows your intent, Jody. He knows your story. And that was just, again, the greatest reminder for me as broken as I am and wrongful as I am. He does. And it's the same lens that I saw her when she was like, I'm a horrible wife. I'm this. I'm like, no, God sent me for you to help me be the God-fearing wife. You're awesome. You're rock star status, and so, just to see each other in a different light when we are struggling, and like I said, to have that friend and to love each other through that. And no matter who we're loving, who we've been hurt by, at the end of the day, we do know one thing is love wins.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, your story is so encouraging. It's inspiring. Thank you for sharing your story, your friendship, and God weaving all that together. A couple of times you made me cry. So, as a pastor, I can't tell you how much I appreciate hearing stories of real people just living their faith in the sphere that God set you to be. That's real ministry. This is ministry. And sometimes I think there's such this false perspective that ministry means you have to be a pastor or a Sunday school teacher or something. Somehow we tend to attach ministry to what happens inside the buildings of the church during the hour and a half to 2 hours people are there. And I'm not diminishing that as a form of ministry, but it is certainly not where most ministry takes place. It happens on the streets, in people's daily living, and you guys are such an example of that. Thank you for sharing your story. I want to encourage you to keep fighting a good fight of faith. You guys keep doing what you do.
Thank you.
Who knows what the next 5 or 10 years are going to hold for you guys.
Yep.
But keep doing what you're doing. As a parent here with children in Derby, Kansas, I'm thankful to know that there are people like you guys that are part of the system that my kids are going to school in, and just to be examples, role models, leaders. So God bless you.